10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, welcome back. This is the India on Cricket 8 podcast, your number one destination for Indian cricket. I'm Nikesh and Megha, your host, alongside Megha as always. And we're here to review the latest goings on in the IPL. I don't know where to start, Megha. I mean, let's start with the crazy amount of runs that have been scored so far in this competition. It continues week on week on week. The Sunrisers Hyderabad just keep smashing records. I mean, on this day, as we're recording, 23rd of April, 2013, was when RCB initially broke that record, 263. They made Chris Gale, dominating on that occasion. And this season, that record has been smashed 4 times by the Sunrisers Hyderabad. Travis Head, Abhishek Sharma, Heinrich Klaasen, Aidan Markram, Abdul Samad. I mean, the list goes on. It's just absolutely bonkers, isn't it?
Indeed, absolutely bonkers. It took a decade for the record to be overhauled, and within a season, and first part of the season, that too, it was overhauled twice, and all thanks to Sunrisers Hyderabad. The crazy batting stats that we are talking about are largely due to Sunrisers Hyderabad, because they themselves have by now breached the 250 mark twice, and then of course 200 mark multiple times. And there have been occasions when they got to their 100 pretty quickly, but nothing beats getting to that within the first 5 overs. And then already people were thinking about the 300 mark that Travis Head had talked about. Now, probably this is what the assurance of stability can bring to a side, because this was the same Sunrisers Hyderabad that were languishing at the bottom of the table for the last few seasons, and there were changes with regards to captaincy, with regards to the management staff. This time around as well, it was a fresh look side, both with regards to the captain and the management staff. But probably they got that assurance of stability. Maybe it didn't come from above, but it came from the captain and the coaching staff to people under them, that no matter what, they'd be back. They'd be backed, and that's what Travis Head also attested when he spoke about Pat Cummins as a skipper across formats. And the results are there for everyone to see. The sort of freedom that Abhishek Sharma is playing with. Now, this opening pair wouldn't have existed but for that injury, that niggle to Mayank Agrawal. And now it's been so far that we can't even think of somebody else opening with Travis Head and Abhishek Sharma, any pair except that. And it never really stops, because there are games in which they score those colossal runs, and the services of Abdul Samad are not asked for. Klaasen is not required as much. So where it's going to go from here, we are just left imagining. And teams have got that message clear. You cannot win the toss and invite them to bat first, like Delhi Capitals did. 100 runs were scored in the power play overs itself within first 5 overs. You can't just do that. At least let them chase. They'll have to follow a different format, a different template rather, but this template is very clear for them.
Look, it's been 21 years since T20 cricket first became a professional game in England in 2003. It's come a mighty, mighty long way. I mean, even before it was a professional game, it was still seen as a sort of quicker format of the game, certainly in terms of overs, but just the scoring rates and stuff like that. But even then, I mean, this kind of stuff was unimaginable, even probably 10 years ago, to see the scores like this consistently over 200 from other sides as well throughout this competition. And if you don't get 200, it's like, well, we're going to struggle here. That tells you one thing about the pitches, but also the modern way of batting. Because look, when I was in under 15 cricket, we don't do what people in India do, where they play like 3 or 4 day matches at that age. We have a quick hit. We have a 20 over a side game on a Wednesday evening or something like that. And that's your under 15 game for the week, right? It's a T20 match. We didn't, the term T20 wasn't used, but it was 20 overs a side. And I remember scores of 100 used to be par, and scores of 120 probably used to be like a winning score more often than not in a T20 match. I mean, we're only 14, 15, so, we're kids, right? It's a little bit different. You don't have the power hitting. And then you fast forward to 2003 and, you look at 140, 150, that's pretty competitive. 160, oh, you're really, doing well there. And if you get to 180, well, that's most likely going to be a winning score 9 times out of 10, unless something dramatic happens. It's just crazy that they smashed the record for power play score in all T20 cricket, all professional T20 cricket, 125 off 6 overs. I mean, there are teams that haven't got that from 20 overs, let alone 6. It's just, I just can't get my head around it. Are we going to see 300 this season? I suppose that's the question.
Mind-boggling indeed, because the way in which Sunrisers Hyderabad is continuing, and they've not ensured that this target remains a secret. They've blurted it out in the public that they are actually chasing that 300 mark. But like you mentioned about 120 being a pass score or a competitive score, now Sunrisers Hyderabad year after year themselves build their identity around being a team that could score those 120 130s and still defend them. So they were known more for their defending prowess, because they had the likes of Rashid Khan, Bhuvneshwar Kumar at his peak. Tina Trajan for a few seasons was a very lethal weapon for them. But then the identity has undergone a massive change now, and here we are talking about a team that's churning out those 200s like it's nothing. And overall as well, if you look at the stats, now every season, including the inaugural game of the IPL between KKR and RCB, we get to see sporadic matches where a lot of runs are scored. But in this particular occasion, the reason we are harping on this is because match after match, that has pretty much been the rhetoric. Now, will the pitches get tired? Because most teams have alternate home ground. So it's not one pitch bearing the brunt. Even in RCB's case, of course, a lot of women's Premier League matches were played at the Chinnaswamy Stadium, and yet the smaller boundaries ensure that the Renfests continue. Will it stop at some point? Will the pitches get tired? It's summer, peak summer in India, particularly in the north of India. In fact, even in the south, because Bangalore is known to be pleasant even during summers, but it's pretty hot there. So would the pattern change just because of the weather? Because the batters are not going to stop. And the, of course, impact player rule has made a massive difference. Last season as well, it did make a marginal difference, but this time around, just the approach that has undergone a massive change, because the batters know the amount of price that was put on the wicket has reduced further, and the batters know that they can just go hammer and tongs.
Absolutely. I mean, this modern way of batting is just something else. I mean, the bats they use, of course, the big, massive chunks, aren't they? You see the edges on them as well. And sometimes you look at the edges and you think, if you get it off that, it's going to fly away as well. It's just absolutely crazy the way cricket is going now. I know they've brought in some regulations with the bats, so they can't be over a certain size. They can't take the mick with them, but still, you go back sort of 10, 15 years even, just as short as that, and you see a massive difference in the bats that we used back then. Just to let you know, if you are listening and watching on YouTube or Facebook, you can get in touch with us. Nani Kaur has just got in touch to say hi, so thanks for getting in touch. And in fact, I think I'm going to ask a little question to everybody listening and watching at the moment, and we'll reveal the answer at the end. Megha, you have a think about this as well. I'm going to ask you, there are 3 players who have taken a hat-trick in the IPL, have scored 100 in the IPL, and are also IPL winners. Only 3 players have done that. So scored 100, taken a hat-trick, and won the IPL trophy. Can you name all 3 players? Get in touch if you know the answer, and we'll reveal that towards the end of the show. But just moving on to this week in the IPL, Rajasthan basically booking their place in the playoffs. That machine keeps going on and on and on. Although the Sunrisers are probably taking all the headlines for the way in which they're winning some of their matches and the runs that they're putting on the board, Rajasthan seem to have just got everything in place at the moment, certainly with their first 11 or 12 players. And as I mentioned, if they get a couple of injuries to key players, they might struggle. Have they got that squad depth? I don't think they probably have, but they don't need it at the moment. And the top order all of a sudden has started clicking as well. So you've got Yashasvi Jaiswal hitting 100. Everybody was questioning his place in the India team, weren't they, for the T20 World Cup? And now all of a sudden he's there and he's back in form.
so important from Indian fans' point of view as well, because we know the sort of carnage that Yashasvi can inflict at the top of the order. Now, to your question, I've got two responses ready. The third one I'm still wondering, but we'd get back to that. Coming back to Yashasvi now, Yashasvi getting those runs, Joss Butler getting that century, so important for Rajasthan Royals, because even at the start of the season, they did put together this run of back-to-back wins, but that was without their top scorer making top order rather making sizable contributions. And now Sanju Samson has shown that consistency. Rian Parag, of course, had a thunderous start to the IPL, and he's in top-notch form as well. So it's all the boxes being ticked for them. And talking about their bowling lineup, Yuzvendra Chahal continues to perform well. There's not been one IPL season where he has struggled. And of course, Ravichandran Ashwin playing that containers role well. You've got Trent Bolt, who can do a lot of damage at the start of the innings in the power play overs. And Sandeep Sharma returning with a fifer. Nandre Berger being consistent. So there's nothing that Rajasthan Royals can technically complain about. And just that phase of the season where we talk about, it's just first few matches and Rajasthan do it well all the time. That has also crossed, because we are almost midway into the season, and they are continuing to do well. There have been some close matches. As they say, fortune favors the brave. They've gotten their nerves attuned to close matches as well and done well in those games. So they've shown every way of winning, every possible way of winning, and the juggernaut continues.
It does, and Jaiswal, I don't know what it was at the start of the season. Look, he's been playing a lot of cricket
Yeah.
across formats. He was in brilliant form before the IPL, playing for India in Test matches and churning out 700 plus runs in that series against England across those 5 Test matches. So, there's nothing wrong with his technique or anything like that. It was just, I suppose, a little bit of burnout, different format, and just took a while to get himself attuned. But class is permanent and form is temporary, as they say. So, showing once again why he's so good. I guess I don't know if you know what his favorite song is, Megha.
Well,
He's a bit of
that's
an old romantic.
oh, that's too much of an information. I think you do know.
I do know. Yeah, I've interviewed him, and I was asking him about what kind of songs are in the dressing room, what's on your playlist before a match, and he got very emotional and said "My Heart Will Go On" by Celine Dion is his go-to song because of all the tough times he's been through. And he's just saying "My heart will go on" despite all the it's a little bit of his own take on what the song means. It's
Yeah,
a love song essentially, but
indeed.
we all know about Titanic and what happened in there. And, thankfully it's nothing to do with anything that dramatic. But just, yeah, that's what gets him going. So maybe he's, he was, he couldn't get his iPhone or whatever to work properly through the tournament. The song wasn't being played before matches. Now he's got his routine back. He's got the song playing, and everything seems well in the world of Yashasvi Jaiswal and Rajasthan Royals. So they're pretty much there.
Hmm.
And who'd bet against them finishing top of the table as well? The start they've had to the season. We'll wait and see if they do fizzle away. We are just over halfway in the IPL season, still a long way to go, and it's getting very congested, isn't it, in that
Hmm.
middle part of the table? You've got a few sides in there who are competing for that 4th spot. The Mumbai Indians had an opportunity, blew it. I mean, talk us through their last game as well against Punjab. I mean, batting first, they looked like they were all set to break 200 at least. They end up getting 179 or whatever it was, and in the end, that was just well below par. In fact, sorry, it was Rajasthan, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Their last game. So again, just missing that opportunity, and their middle order doesn't seem to quite have, when you're looking at the finishers, I suppose, and the Hardik Pandya is playing that role now for the Mumbai Indians. He's lost a bit of his mojo, hasn't he, in terms of being able to hit those sixes at will and on decent pitches as well. He's struggling to do it.
Absolutely, it's all getting compounded for them. Rohit Sharma, barring his form, and he too in the previous game couldn't contribute much. Ishan Kishan couldn't chip in with much. There's not been much from the middle order either. Tilak Verma, in a few games, he has made sizable contributions. So has Surya Kumar Yadav, but that consistency has been missing, and the team looks beleaguered. Hardik Pandya. We've not seen that impactful innings from him. Now, with him in the middle order for Mumbai Indians, we do not, even when we look back at his contributions in the years where he was at his peak and with the team, we wouldn't really expect him to score a lot of runs. We wouldn't expect him to score those 50s, but they'd be those impactful cameos scored at a brisk pace. That too has gone missing. So on the batting front, it's been a massive issue for them. Even at home, at the home ground, Wankhede, one would expect them to score a lot of runs because a lot of runs get scored there. That has not been happening. And in the bowling department as well, Jasprit Bumrah, of course, continues to shine, but he doesn't get a lot of support. Kodzi has been picking up wickets, but has been very expensive in the spin department. They do not have a force to reckon with. Say, like Rajasthan Royals, they have pedigree there, but that's not the case for Mumbai Indians. And that spin department has been a concern again for a while now. It's not been addressed. So, and then the booing continues. So, if it could go from bad to worse, it has indeed gone from bad to worse. There was a phase in between in which there was a run of 3 games in which they won two, but that's about it. Since then, it's all been doom and gloom.
It has indeed, yeah. But look, they're still in with a chance, a great chance, really, of making those playoffs. They're still in the mix. Long time to go. They're a couple of points off those top 4 places as things stand. Gujarat sort of just above them, but have played a game more, and their net run rate, I think, is going to be a massive problem for Gujarat. It's so much worse than all the sides around them. So it's almost like a point or two added, really, or taken away from them, rather, in terms of that chase for that top 4. One side that won't really be looking at the top 4 at the moment, they'll just be looking to get off the bottom of the table, is the Royal Challengers Bangalore. What a game that was with the KKR, the game of the tournament. 222 plays 221. I mean, the game itself, brilliant. But what everyone's talking about is the no ball, or well, it wasn't a no ball, was it, in the end? Should it have been a no ball? Should it not? I mean, here's the rule, right? So if you haven't been following, Kohli gets a full toss.
Yeah.
He's batting out of his crease. It's over his waist height at the point of impact, which he's playing in front of him. Like he's batting probably a meter. His bat is probably a meter in front of his body. He's then another meter outside of his crease. And look, it's nothing to do with the umpires. The umpires cannot. There's no subjectivity to this decision. On-field umpires, they didn't sort of feel like they could have given it. Kohli reviewed it, which is in his rights to do. And then it's all about ball tracking. So the player's waist is measured from foot to waist. And then the ball tracking is taken into account. And where the ball reaches the popping crease is where they measure from the floor to where the ball is. And at the popping crease, it was just below waist height. And that's where, that's the rule, right? Those are the playing conditions, and you've got to go by that. However, for you as a cricket fan, as somebody who's watched cricket for years and years, and even for me, somebody who's played the game, I'd be pretty pissed off if that was me and it wasn't given as a no ball. But those are the rules, right? You've got to follow the rules. But should they look at that? And should they give any leeway to the batter, even though he's batting out of his crease? I'll let you answer that.
Well, that rule is in black and white. And the reason the word rule is used here, because it is in black and white. And that was made ahead of the IPL. The measurements were recorded, the data was taken and fed into the system. So it's all the of rules being adhered to and followed. And of course, there's no human subjectivity here. The reason this rule was introduced was to take human subjectivity out of the equation. Even in LBW decisions, when the batter is stepping out of the crease, that gets factored in. So again, it's only fair that it also gets considered in this case. And in any case, Virat Kohli, probably we've not seen this issue becoming contentious this IPL. Probably that's why when it first happened and when it was first called into question, it became slightly controversial because Virat Kohli became extremely miffed. He had a message or two for the umpire. Faf du Plessis as well continued talking to the umpire for a considerable while, and Virat Kohli went back absolutely livid. Was fined 15%, rather 50% of his match fee as well. But again, it is a part of the rule, and although a new rule, And when the players were given the playing conditions, they would have obviously found it there. It's a big long document. Not sure every player would be interested in going through every line. There are other things to do. But I do understand the reaction, because considering the stage of the game and overall where they are in the tournament, Virat would have wanted to contribute. Virat would have wanted his team to win, to keep mathematically their chances of making it to the playoffs. But all in all, I don't think there's much to complain about in the hindsight as far as a rule is concerned, because otherwise there would have been a lot of arbitrariness to remove that this rule was introduced. But I have a quick point here. You asked me what the mood is like in India with regards to the IPL. Now, I wouldn't be doing any peeping in, because you've already cautioned all my neighbors, so I'd rather be safe and cautious there. But I was at the airport, and this game was in its dying stages, and at the Bangalore airport, and Royal Challengers Bangalore playing. So anywhere there was a TV monitor, and I'm not a very tall person, so it was very difficult for me to get any sort of glimpse of the game, because the sort of huddle that was around every TV screen, and goes without saying that there was no TV screen on which there wouldn't be the match underway. It was absolutely crazy. People had their comments to make, people had their fingers crossed, and most of them RCB fans, because of course Bangalore airport, and it was all crazy. And the way the match went absolutely down to the wire, it just made it all worth it. So the buzz is real and true, and more so in Bangalore, of course.
And I bet for a moment they thought the game was gone,
Yeah,
really, going into the last over. Then they need 21. And
yeah,
then Karan Sharma. I mean, where the hell did that come from? 3 square 6s over the offside against Mitchell Stark, who, it doesn't matter who he bowls to, he just
yeah,
keeps getting blasted out of the park, doesn't he? It doesn't matter if it's a number 8, 9, whatever. He just cannot get it right in this IPL. He's had, like, one match where he took
yeah,
3 for 28, whatever. And
yeah,
then the rest of it, he just keeps getting hit. And these were like not bad wide Yorkers just outside the off stump. The length was perfect. And it was just Karan Sharma. He that must be a favorite shot of his or something, because he was blasting them. And then the way in which he got him out at the end as well, low full toss. It was hit off the toe end of the bat, yeah, but it was still traveling towards Mitchell Stark. And it's one of those that either sticks or it doesn't. And somehow they pulled that game out the bag, KKR. No idea how. No idea. I really thought Karan Sharma was going to take them home. And you could see on the bench as well, he hit the first 6. They thought, all right, well, that's a bit of fun. He hit the second. They're like, oh, maybe a chance here. That he hit the third. And then it was like, RCB have to win this. They're going to win this. They needed, what, 3 from 2 balls or something like that?
yeah, exactly.
And that was it. They should have done it by that point. And then, obviously, 3 from 1 ball. So 2 to tie. They run through for 1. The throw is wild. It's a terrible throw into the keeper. And Phil Salt, brilliant dive to get the stumps and get the run out. So, I mean, that's what we want to see in the IPL. I mean, look, getting 260 every
Yeah.
week is fine. And it shows that you're a proper batting unit. But those are the games. It doesn't matter if it's 150, 180, 200, whatever it is. Those are the kind of finishes we're used to seeing in the IPL. And we haven't seen that much of this season, have we?
Dinesh Karthik tried to turn the SRH chase into one such, but it was too big a mountain to climb. But in this game that we are talking about, after Karthik got out with 2 wickets in hand, RCB had no business to make a match out of it, considering their reputation. They still did. So probably that is RCB. Whatever you expect them, they're gonna take the right opposite direction. And eventually, the match turned out to be extremely exciting one, and probably that's what neutral fans care about. RCB fans, though, it is misery for them. Their women's team won the WPL, but just one win. They've not been able to get those 2 points since then. It's absolutely mind-boggling. And you hear their skipper Faf du Plessis after the games, and it almost sounds very dull and gloom, because he talks about how important it is for the batters to do all the work, because he's almost given up on the bowling front. He's said that explicitly. As compared to the other teams, in our case, the batters will have to do extra because our bowlers haven't been contributing, and they've tried various combinations. They've even dropped Mohammad Siraj, but it's not really helped them. And spin department as well looks weak, and whatever's happening to them, it's really disappointing to see. Not that my expressions say so, but I'm just saying it from RCB fans' point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's mad, isn't it? All these years and they just can't get a decent bowling attack. I mean, not that they've not had decent bowlers, just
Yeah,
as a unit, they just don't perform. I mean, you go way back and you look at Anil Kumble with his what,
yeah.
5 for 5 or something like that.
They had Zahir
And
Khan as well around that
you,
time.
yeah, I mean, there's been so many that
Hmm.
have been superstars in their own right, but as a bowling unit, something just doesn't seem to click. It's obviously just not written in the stars, is it? In terms of RCB and the IPL, it is in terms of the WPL though. That was brilliant. That gave the men a lot of hope, didn't it? Coming into this season, their
Yeah.
launch event was alongside the women, and in fact, it was a celebration of the WPL victory rather than a launch for the IPL, and that was at the request of senior players like Virat Kohli, which was good to
Hmm.
see. But no, it's just not going to happen once again this season. 2 points on the board only, more than halfway through the season, and yeah, things look very bleak indeed. Just a reminder of our quiz question. You can see it at the bottom of your screen there. Do get in touch. Hi to Ravi Busman as well, who's listening, watching rather, on Facebook. If you know the answer to the question below, do get in touch. I've had a couple of responses already. We'll reveal in a few minutes' time. Right, so more than halfway through the IPL, we've got a T20 World Cup coming up in June. I'm going to put you on the spot here and say, what's your Indian batting lineup looking like at the
Hmm.
moment for that T20 World Cup? Forget the pitches. Let's take everything out. I know you've got to take all that stuff into account, really, but this is like fantasy cricket. Just who's done really well in the IPL, and are you making any changes to what would be deemed as India's probably preferred 11 if you were to look before the IPL? And let's just talk batters. So top 6.
There's just one straightforward answer there, and that's, I mean, rather a couple of answers: Rohit Sharma and Suryakumar Yadav. Now, almost all the other positions are up for grabs. KL Rahul, we've been talking about him, whether he'd bat in the middle order just to ensure that he gets a look in for the Indian team, but he's also the captain of Lucknow Super Giants, and probably the opening position is what fits him best. But we've seen a massive paradigm shift in approach. The last we saw KL Rahul batting like that was back in 2018 and 19. So he's been that player who's been going for the big shots right from the word go. He is trying to prove a point to the Indian selectors, to issue a reminder to them. So does he fit in? The question remains. He can also keep the wickets. He can also do the wicket keeping job. Now, Jitesh Sharma was almost a certain, at least in the squad heading into the IPL, but his form since then has taken a hit. Rinku Singh, of course, nothing remarkable per se this IPL, because much of the heavy lifting for KKR is being done top of the order with the sort of form that Phil Salt is in. But Rinku Singh, the sort of maturity that he has shown for the Indian team in the precious few opportunities that he has got from the word go, he's been on the money. So obviously in contention, Yashasvi Jaiswal back into contention with that century, and more so with the value addition that he can bring. He's got decent experience of the conditions there in the West Indies. He scored a century, albeit in different format in the West Indies. And otherwise, apart from that, Ishan Kishan, it almost looked like he's absolutely out of contention with regards to the Indian team with those disciplinary issues and the break and everything. But he's doing the controllables, he's scoring those runs. Sanju Samson again is being talked of, but his ODI records, although they are fine, but T20I records aren't great. Rishabh Pant as well. Now he has done well. It took him time to get started with the sort of Rishabh Pant that we know him for. but then off late he has been scoring runs, scoring them at quick pace, and he's taken us back to the 2019 and pre-2019 period when he'd not really be bogged down by responsibilities and score runs at a fair pace. So Rishabh Pant almost back in contention, but if you look at it kind of historically maybe might be a too heavy word, but Rishabh Pant in T20I has never really justified his talent. So can he be considered? Would he be considered? He's also keeping wickets. And how about Dinesh Karthik? Now India did that in 2022, got him in based on the IPL form. Didn't work out for them, but the sort of form he's in this time around, he's got a half century, a couple of half centuries, one of them around 53, strike rate of 200, 83 in another game where he almost won his team, almost held his team close in on that massive target. So, what is your take on the people that I've just elaborated on?
You could basically have a team of the traditional players that they've been picking for the last couple of years and an alternative team, and I think they'd give each other a pretty good game. I mean, you could go, look, if I'm to leave out the sort of, traditional top six, you could go with Abhishek Sharma at the top of the order. You could go, Jaiswal hasn't played in T20 World Cup yet, so you go Jaiswal. And then you could go likes of Rinku Singh in the middle. You could go for Shivam Dubey somewhere. You could probably stick a KL Rahul in there, he's kind of been out of the mix a little bit in T20s lately for India. Maybe Sanju Samson. There's so many, aren't there, that you could choose from. I mean, this is without... Sorry?
Is this your main team or your alternate team?
This is the alternate team. But it could quite easily be the main team, couldn't it? Because you don't have to. I know Rohit Sharma's the captain; he's going to play.
Yeah.
And they've made that decision. But apart from him, does Kohli have to play? I'd like to see him play, but does he have to play? You could argue. Where's he going to bat? Because he's not going to open the batting for it. There's talks that's what the selectors are going to go for. They're going to go for Rohit and Kohli at the top of the order. Where the hell do you put Jaiswal then? Where do you put, Gill? Is Gill going to even play? Gill's probably not going to play then. And do you put Jaiswal at 3? Is that wasting Jaiswal? I think so. He's an opener.
Indeed.
So, and then who's going to keep wickets? Sanju Samson looks like he's in the driving seat for that all of a sudden with his consistent performances, which he hasn't done. But then how can you leave Rishabh Pant out of any side that India ever selects in any format? So they've got a lot of tough decisions, and I don't envy them at all. There's a long way to go in this IPL season as well. So I'm sure there'll be plenty more to look at in a couple of weeks' time in terms of who's been, consistently performing across the whole competition and who's fizzled out and who's all of a sudden started to get back some form. I don't know when that announcement's going to be made by Ajit Agarkar. They're probably going to announce some probables, I think, in the first week of May. So not long to go. That's next week. So I don't know if he's already got his sort of 15, 17 players down and nailed. But it's going to be really, really interesting to see how they go about this. I think the bowling is a little bit more straightforward. I suppose the big question is, can you play all three of Jadeja, Kuldeep and Chahal in the same 11? I'm not sure you can. So one of them is going to have to give way. And who it's going to be, I don't know. Jadeja they love, but have you got enough batting to drop him? And, it just really, really intriguing. And the pitches obviously are going to take a bit of turn in the West Indies and, in probably the US as well. They're going to be new pitches. There's going to be a lot of unknown about it. And the spinners may well come into it. But I think playing 3 spinners in a T20 side is probably not the way they're going to go. So Kuldeep might have to miss out.
I like the confidence because it almost suggests that Chahal, according to you, is a certain in the 15, which might not really be the case. And
if he's not, then I don't know what Ajit Agarkar and the selection committee have been smoking, because seriously, there's no way you can drop this guy from a T20 international team. He's the way he's performed. I mean, he's the first man to 200 wickets in the IPL now. He's been consistently performing wherever he's been, whether it be at RCB or now the Rajasthan Royals. he's dangerous, and he's got new plans. You can see, like against the left-handers this season, he's got those, new variations where he just pushes it wide and, floats it up and tempts them. And he's an attacking bowler. He's a wicket-taking bowler, and you don't get too many spinners in T20s who are like that. Even the Rashid Khans of this world, who's rated as probably the best bowler across the last 5 years in T20s, he's not an attacking bowler. He's a defensive bowler. You can't score runs off him, and that's why he gets the odd wickets and, keeps his wickets ticking over as such, whereas Chahal takes more wickets and might go for a few more runs. But even then, you look at his overall record, like 7.5 runs and over across his T20 career. That's outstanding in this modern day and age. And he still takes bucket loads of wickets as well. So there's no way you can't pick this guy. So, if they don't, then I'm sorry, but they've just almost, taken away some of their chances of winning that T20 World Cup, I feel.
Maybe, potentially, if there are players like Shivam Dubey in peak form, Hardik Pandya in peak form, them together, the reason that has been cited thus far is, for example, 2021 World Cup, Rahul Chahar was preferred because they wanted a bowler who's maybe slower through the air, or whatever the reason that was cited back then. 2021 early IPL was one aberration where Yuzvendra Chahal didn't pick up a lot of wickets, but the second part of the IPL, there he was absolutely phenomenal. But again, we're coming back to this question of whether that bowler can contribute with the bat. Primary skill, he's absolutely phenomenal, but he's not a great fielder. He cannot bat to save his life. So those two questions get often asked, and then there are not many answers that can be given in response to specifically those two questions. Also with Ravindra Jadeja, he's great with the bat when it comes to tests, when it comes to ODIs, but is he as impactful in T20 cricket and even in the IPL? Of course, he won Chennai Super Kings the IPL last year with that 6 and a 4, but otherwise for the Indian team. So that question would continuously be asked. And then the Indian fans concerned that Ravi Chandran Ashwin, you never know, ahead of the World Cup, some or the other equation might build in his favor and he might just sneak in. It happened twice before across formats. You never know. So,
yeah, could do. I mean, these are all good questions to have for the selectors anyway. It shows Indian cricket is in a good place at the moment. So, look, we'll look forward to the next week of IPL action and see what delights we have to talk about next week. I'm sure there's going to be plenty more exciting action as well. The women's team, Indian women's team, of course, have just left for their tour of Bangladesh. So we'll keep an eye on that. Their first T20 of 5 takes place on Sunday. So we'll have a little chat about how that series has started off next week as well. And that's when we'll be back with you. That's all we've got time for this week. Do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our Facebook page. Follow us on socials as well. Just before we go, the answer to that question at the bottom of your screen: who are the only 3 players to ever win the IPL, also take a hat-trick in the IPL, and also score 100? Correct answers. Thank you to Mukunda Banreddy and Nani Kaur, who both got the answer correct. Rohit Sharma, Sunil Narayan, and Shane Watson. Of course, you can see the answer on your screen. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you're listening to us back on a podcast feed, and we'll be back with you next week. Goodbye.